South Africa's apartheid past has again raised its head over the past week over what is seen by many as apartheid symbols. The University of Cape Town has seen a number of protests over the statue of Cecil John Rhodes, and questions are also being asked over other statues such as that of Louis Botha situated at Parliament. Even the name of Grahamstown's Road University has come under the spotlight. Another apartheid symbol, the so-called Dompas, has also raised its ugly head after workers in the town of Worcester were forced to carry green crime cards in order to get jobs. How far have we come as a country where transformation is concerned? We debate the issue this morning with political analyst Professor Duvenage and human rights activist Lotta Mayana. Prof, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. Good morning and welcome.
Morning. Nice talking to you.
Lotta, thank you so much for your time. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Prof, let's start with the definition of transformation. When we talk about transformation, it has become a word that's thrown around all the time. What exactly do we mean, or what should we mean?
Okay, I think there are two general big views about transformation. The one is a management view where you change an order fundamentally from an undesired past towards an ideal future on basis of continuity. So it's not a revolution, it is a managed revolution in the sense of the word. When it comes to the South African context, we are giving a very specific content to transformation, and that is basically to reflect national demography in all structures of state and society, where within the principle of equity and equality is at the center.
And Lotta, your thoughts? What should transformation mean to us?
Look, you would understand that South Africa itself is driven by different enterprises and different sectors. So in terms of transformation, we're talking about processes, we're talking about new policies, we're talking about forward thinking. We really have to look at how we act, how we correct the mistakes of the past. That starts from changing the leadership, changing the structures of the organization to ensure that the new policies do take effect within those institutions.
Now, Prof, still on that very broad level about transformation in general, in your opinion, how have we fared in the last 21 years or so?
Well, to be honest with you, if we work with the government's definition of transformation and its application, and I must tell you there are not agreement about this in terms of philosophy as well as execution, then I think we were relatively unsuccessful in a number of fields. I think if we look at the first phase, the political transition, taking control over the powers of the state and related structures, then the government and the ANC was relatively successful. But when it comes to the challenges with regard to socio-economic transformation, the so-called second phase of transformation, then it is a completely different story. And I must mention that in the corporate world, up to 80% of all attempts to transform is unsuccessful. When it comes to states in the world, and there are a number of examples who tried to transform in the one or another way, it was relatively unsuccessful. And at the moment, our biggest challenge is a lack of state capacity and a lack of finances to bring about the desired changes.
Lotta, would you agree with that? And if so, what would be the factors that has led to us being relatively unsuccessful when it comes to especially socio-economic transformation?
Yeah, look, I think it's more on the business interest, because you understand that within the business, you look at the business as my colleague is saying, 80% of certain groups are running the business sector. And that also has got an effect to social as well as economic, as well as the organizational changes as well. So what then that means is that people, because of job security, because of power, because of influence, they're not going to allow those policies to take effect. In fact, they will do everything to make sure that those things, they do not see the light. So it's the attitude and the behavior within those institutions to trying to ensure that those things do not happen, as well as what they're basically doing and saying is that they need to be there. They need to take ownership of that space in order for them to be influenced.
Mm-hmm. Now, Prof, let's narrow it down now from the broad discussion on transformation. Let's look at the University of Cape Town, Rhodes University, and universities in general. We know that the debate has focused quite a bit in recent days about Cecil John Rhodes. But before we go there, let's talk about the unhappiness at the UCT and other such universities with regards to transformation. What's it like at those universities that's making black students so unhappy?
Well, I cannot talk on behalf of all the universities. I can only answer in a more general way. But my general assessment, and I would like to start at the point where I believe that in the past 20 plus years, we have reached a high point as far as racial problems is concerned. It seems as if the race issue is a lot more prominent at the moment than it was at any time since 1994. And that is very much concerning. And if we look at the university and universities at general, we are picking up these symptoms. It is not only with regard to the UCT and Rhodes, we are also picking this up within the context of the Northwest University, UJ, Stellenbosch, University of Pretoria, and so on. So I believe it is part of a bigger problem within society, and that is very much concerning. My view, however, is to change symbols is not necessarily going to change reality. We must look into the future and create a better future for all, and not concentrating on the past all the time. I am completely not in agreement with what Cecil John Rhodes has done. In fact, I'm coming from an Afrikaans orientation, and he made a lot of trouble for the Afrikaners, if you look throughout history. But he made some contribution with regard to UCT, with regard to the country. Give him that credit and let him go his way. We must take the past to rest at a certain extent in order for us to move forward.
Now, Lotta, before we talk about Cecil John Rhodes in specific, just one quick question. I've read somewhere someone describing what we saw at these universities in the last few weeks as the power of the powerless, as the black middle class rage in action. We've heard black students saying we can't breathe due to this white suffocating dominance at university levels. Do you agree that it's still very unequal at the university level? There's very little transformation that has taken place in the last 2 decades?
Well, there's not been transformation at all in many universities around the country. You understand that what informs our actions today is our history. And going forward, people, they're not going to move far from their history. For example, if you take a very old piece of legislation, which is Bible Education of 1953, that piece of legislation was promulgated with the sole purpose to deprive black communities a better education. In fact, to give them become an unskilled labor. And that is what you're seeing now with certain courses, degrees that are reserved for white communities. And in fact, there are mechanisms in place to ensure that the black communities do not access those courses. You would see that also that previous advantage institutions have got no transformation. This is not only discrimination and racism, but it's also gender inequality as well among the same group, because if you look at now the heads of all these universities, you find that it's male-dominated. This country needs to move forward. Those who do not want to integrate and transform, unfortunately, they must retire. We cannot, after 20 years of democracy, have institutions where certain groups are still treated unfairly. We must commend the forward thinking of other universities, such as the Free State universities, on what they've done. But even with the Free State universities, had it not been the cameras that were in place at the time those incidents took place, we wouldn't know about those things. So it is important that we need to ensure, yes, I do agree that government doesn't have resources to go around to monitor those universities, but there's definitely a lot of race cases. So the struggle of those students needs to be supported. We support that struggle. That struggle is not around the monument itself. That's the fact that Rose is standing there, the buildings are there, but it's the attitude of the people behind those buildings. It addresses policies, because if you still put up those monuments there, it shows that you celebrate those people. We cannot celebrate the oppressors. If you go to most of these universities, you see a lot of cappuccino effect. In fact, when people they are told about integration, people they are quick to say, you will see the education standard is going to decrease. And if you would recall, there was a piece of legislation which was Job Reservation Act. That act basically was saying that certain jobs would be for certain race groups. Through those courses and those people, they get certain jobs. You get now, if you go to municipalities, you get people with matric, because they are white, they've got matric, and they're head of certain departments. But you will never find that with black people.
Prof, I want to spend quite a bit of time talking about the Cecil John Rhodes issue and about statues and monuments and what they reflect and how they reflect and how we should react. But just for the benefit of those listeners who may not be fully aware with regards to the historical context, who was Cecil John Rhodes in a nutshell, and what were the positives and negatives?
Well, Cecil John Rhodes was probably one of the single biggest people-driven colonialism within the South African context, also within what we know today as Zimbabwe. We can see him as a British entrepreneur. He was responsible for a number of big economic and corporate initiatives. I think we can refer to Kimberley within a certain context, Johannesburg, and also parts of Zimbabwe. So he made a big difference. He was an entrepreneur in a number of ways. He was a very important person in the corporate world of his time, but he was British. He was coming from an imperialist background. He was in many ways anti-Afrikaans, to put it that way. So that is in a nutshell his position. But saying all of this, we cannot ignore his contribution that he made. And to give you another parallel, if we look today at a person like Shaka Zulu, Shaka Zulu made a huge difference within the South African context at his time, but he was not a human rights person in any way whatsoever. But still, I think we need to look at these figures as historical figures who contribute in their own way to South African history, and we can also learn lessons from their mistakes and taking it forward. But to try and destroy them as historical figures is not going to take us forward. In fact, my vision on transformation, and that is a very solid academic vision, is that transformation is more about the future than it is about the past. So we must work away from the past into the future.
Well, what if the question were to be asked, Prof, that why do you erect a statue in the first place? A statue is not erected in the opinion of many just to acknowledge someone historically, but it's there to venerate, and it's there to acknowledge in a very positive sense that person's contribution. And that may be a bit of a misfit when it comes to Cecil John Rhodes, because the negative may outweigh the positive.
Well, that is depending on the paradigm you are taking as your point of departure. If you look from a British colonial perspective, then you must argue that he was one of the biggest contributors. And you can argue that he was responsible for development. He created roads, he created cities, he created universities. In that sense, there is also a positive to it. But we must take into consideration that all individuals, in terms of their contribution to life, make positive contributions and also negative contributions. So this is all about paradigm. This is all about your point of departure.
Lotta, your thoughts on Cecil John Rhodes and the statue? Should it go? Should it stay?
Look, basically, if you were to get an aerial view of our society today on where people live, under the conditions that people live, you'd see that that is the product of basically Cecil Rhodes. For instance, if you look at land ownership, construction, still black communities are unable to get access to construction sector, and also they do not have land. Look at gentrification, for instance. That is not different from the Group Areas Act, which Cecil Rhodes enacted, the Location Act, the Urban Areas Act, and all those pieces of legislation. It's what Cecil brought to our community. The apartheid special planning policies were often blamed for disconnecting many black communities from economic opportunities, but little has been done. So I cannot then agree to say that we must forget about the past. We cannot forget about the past because a lot of people benefited from that past that we can forget about now. If you look at land ownership, you look at a lot of people, they were moved from District 6 to Atlantis, to Mitchell's Plain, and those people, they were disconnected from the CBD. We cannot then forget about that past. We need to correct that past in order for us to move forward. Those people, they did not choose to move to those places. They were forcefully moved out. For instance, both Bokap and Woodstock are places of historical importance to our community. And today, those places are vastly different. People are often worried because of increasing costs, rental costs, as well as levies. And people there, a lot of people there do not own that land, but they've been staying there for more than 20 years. And this is a tactic, again, of Cecil Rhodes' policies, because he's the one who brought about such policies. He's got farms, Wellington, as well as in Drakenstein. Within his farms, the employees are being abused, constantly abused by these people. So that's what he was for. So we cannot then celebrate such a person. His monument, his statue should not be in public institutions like that. They should rather go to the Apartheid Museum. Those who want to celebrate him, they will then go to those museums and celebrate it there.
What about the argument that if we were to judge people by today's values in a historical context? I read out to you one quote of Gareth Cliff. He says, people are the product of the time in which they live. You can't judge a person of 100 years ago by enlightened thought and sensitivity of the present. The argument is if you're going to use such a critical tool to judge, everyone will fail, including Shaka Zulu, after whom an airport is named, including George Washington and many others internationally. So where do you draw a line? In that case, all statues, all monuments, or most of them worldwide would have to be removed.
Look, we cannot run away from the fact that Cecil looked after the minority. And within that minority, you'd see that now a lot of land. In fact, where you see UCT, that land was never owned by himself. He moved people all out of those. People were moved to Bondeville, people were moved to Heideveld, the owners of those lands. So people that were moved. Now, if you want to get a land back there, you have to fork out millions of rand just to get a piece of land back. You cannot celebrate that, because then without land ownership, there's no sense of belonging, because you are renting. You cannot rent for forever. You need to have a home, and most of these people, they've got a home, they've got a place where they can say, this is a piece of my land. He's got huge hectares of farms that he did not pay for. But if I want, or anyone else wants to get a piece of that land, you have to pay millions. So we cannot celebrate that.
Prof, your response to that, there are many who say, look, it's hurtful. It may not have been removed in the last 20 years. People may not have noticed it that much, but it's come into the fore of discussion. This is a man who usurped land. This is a man who ruled against the natives with an iron fist, who referred to them as barbarians, who saw them as subhuman. This was the man who introduced policies which later on became entrenched apartheid policies. His statue should not be there. It's hurtful to those who suffered, in this country.
Well, to start with, my view is a bit different from the other commentator. I don't think we can change the past. We can change our perspective on the past, but the past has happened. But what we can change in an active way is our perspective of the future, and we can help to create a future. So I think we need to look forward and not backwards. That is the first point. The second one, I think what is important, when we look at Cecil John Rhodes, as mentioned, he made a certain contribution within a certain time, and there's no doubt, if you read the books about Cecil John Rhodes, that he made a big contribution, and that in one way or another, he is a historical figure. Just think about soapy like Dallas. If you ignore J.R. Ewing, then there's no story to it. So he's a part of history, and many people recognize him in one way or another. But my bigger problem is we are currently in a phase where racial tension is picking up, and it seems as if there's a lot of focus and attention on what we can refer to as white symbols. And I am very much afraid that this is going to contribute to high levels of polarization, which we can do without at this point in time. We need to bring people closer together, especially in this difficult economic times. We cannot focus on the divisions and even the divisions of the past. So my vision is a vision about the future and not about the past.
But Prof, there are those who would argue that having his statue removed or having his name removed from Rhodes University in Grahamstown is not changing history in any way, nor is it trying to ignore or obliterate his contribution. It's just simply stating that you cannot venerate him, you cannot give him that praiseworthy position that that statue or the name of a university holds because of his negative contribution to the history of South Africa.
Okay, how will you take then the whole case of Shaka Zulu, for example, from a human rights perspective, renaming a airport to him? So there's a lot of contradictions. People are associating with certain symbols, and I know within certain communities, and that's not my community, it's other communities, there are big respect for a person like Cecil John Rhodes and what he contributed, even within the context of the University of Cape Town. And let's give credit where credit is due and criticize where we need to criticize. But we cannot take a role player like Cecil John Rhodes out of play. He was and probably still is even today an influential person, although you may only read it in history.
Right. Now, Lotta, there are those who say that if a statue hurts you so much, you are giving too much power to a statue. And they also make reference to Madiba. The DA has been saying when Madiba went to Grahamstown, he rather, favored the rededication of the 1820 settlers monument rather than its obliteration, and that we should follow a similar course. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think if we were to move forward and the other communities, they wanted us to celebrate the past, let's rather nationalize the land. Let's give people an equal right to land. Those who've got houses, huge hectares of land, let's give our people land so that people can benefit from that. In terms of where Madiba stood, Madiba was under pressure to ensure that there is integration, there is transformation. Right?
Lotta, are you still there?
In fact, there's an echo on my side. There's a bad hitting sound, so that's why.
Yeah, okay. Let's try that again. You can continue.
No, it's actually bad.
No, yeah, I can hardly hear you. Okay, we'll try and get Lotta back on the line just for those concluding remarks from his side. We are almost done. It's the Monday morning discussion. We're talking about symbols of apartheid. How transformed is South Africa? And we know this whole issue of the protests at the University of Cape Town and then Grahamstown University or Rhodes University in Grahamstown. This has brought to the fore the whole discussion about the statue of Cecil John Rhodes and others. And we've been having this discussion with Professor Andre Duvenage as well as human rights activist Lotta Mayana. Lotta, let's try it now. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay, you were saying?
Yeah, look, I'm saying that if we need to not look negatively on the past, because unfortunately the oppressor was there and they oppressed us. They moved us out of our land. So because of that, if they want us to live peacefully, we need to nationalize the land and give people equal rights to land. If you look at the statistics now in terms of the land ownership, a lot of black communities, they do not own the land. And that's why a lot of black communities are being constantly moved through policies. Now, the BOGAP community is being moved out of CBD. That comes from the thoughts of Cecil Rhodes. So we cannot then celebrate such a person who oppressed, where his thoughts are still being celebrated today, because what is guiding those policies to move these people out of CBD, to cut their water, to cut their electricity if they do not pay, instead of subsidizing those people to ensure that those people, they will be able to live. I mean, if you look at a lot of our community as well, where they reside at the outskirts of town, very far, and the transport system is actually costing them. In fact, a lot of their income is going towards the transport. So if you come to Madiba accepted a Nobel Prize alongside F.W. de Klerk, who was the oppressor, who he knew that F.W. de Klerk was an oppressor. But he said, as a country, we needed to move forward. And also, F.W. de Klerk did not come to the party because he wanted to. He came to the party because of the sanctions, international sanctions, because he was told internationally. I mean, the economy of the country was suffering. If you look now, even the current government, they inherited a lot of debt from the previous government. And that was because of all those sanctions. So the economic power, we need to get access. Right. A lot of our community needs to get access to the economy. Once we get the economy, then we can relook at the past, whether we still want to use it the way. Unfortunately, that memory is not a pleasant memory for us. Also, if you go to credit institutions, you are being discriminated against the race, the religion, your national, your origin, where you come from. Even the Consumer Credit Act is not protecting people. Unfortunately, certain races, because where do they hit us the most? They hit us through the interest rates. They will give you insurance that, and that there has not been transformation. Right. It is because those institutions are controlled by that minority. So if the minority do want us to move forward, let's nationalize and see what they have and share that. We do not mind sharing. Even the resources, look at the mines, for instance. Those are resources of this country. But who owns the mines? It's the same people. Rhodes himself, he partnered with DBS to own a lot of DBS mines. All the diamond mines in South Africa are owned by DBS. Where is the benefit to people? So why should we then celebrate an oppressor? If you look at incidents that are happening in the farms where people are not compensated, incidents that are happening in the mines, and all the people who are actually falling sick because of the mining pollution, right. Those people, they're not being compensated. So why should we then celebrate a person whose thought was to oppress those people? We cannot celebrate that, unfortunately.
Okay. Lotta Mayana and Professor Andre Duvenage, thank you both for your time this morning. Much appreciated, and have a great day.
Thank you.